Best Mexican food in all of Dayton, Ohio is Taqueria Mixteca at 1609 East 3rd Street. Give them a call, 258-2654. 94% of the people like it on urbanspoon.com. And you are rolling with David Romick from the Dayton Education Association. And you are the president.
I'm the president of the organization,
Okay.
which is the teachers union for the teachers in the Dayton Public Schools.
And how many teachers do you represent?
Approximately right now 1,186.
Okay. And this week, in addition to, this is kind of something that's going on all over the country, but it seems to really be hitting urban districts. The board announced there's going to be laying off 10% of teachers.
Roughly.
Okay. Just give me a, this isn't something new either, is it? In addition to these, how many other cuts have we seen in the past decade to kind of put this in perspective?
I believe within the past decade, the Dayton Public Schools staffing-wise overall has cut approximately 700 positions.
Yeah, and what's that mean for, for kids and their parents?
Well, for kids and their parents, it means that the educational services are cut back. Without the personnel, we can't continue to provide the services that we have in the past. Obviously, as teaching professionals and educators who care about the kids in the community, we will continue to do our best through this latest layoff. But, as budgets get tighter and tighter and tighter, that becomes more and more and more of a difficult, if not nearly impossible job.
Do you think that, I heard a quote the other day from an economist, I'm not sure which one, I read a lot of stuff and watch a lot of, but he made the point that the United States is the richest society ever in the history of human civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, knowing that, what does that make you, seeing what we're going through now, like I said, in Ohio, in Wisconsin, a lot of Americans who've been out overseas go to other countries where teachers are pretty much revered,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get as many degrees as you want for free as long as you're willing to put the work in.
Right.
What does all of this say to, it seems like the state of education is constantly in turmoil. This is not something new. It's like every year we're going to change everything this year.
Right.
And next year we're going to change everything that we changed the year before.
Right.
Where's this taking us? Maybe it's a broad question, but
No, that's fine. That kind of a cycle, the constant change and the constant turmoil, is why we continue to be in the situation we're in the educational system. Within school districts individually, and this is across the country, I'm not just referring to Dayton here, it's the latest program, the latest ideas, the latest theories, and they come in, we try them, and then too often they're discarded and we move on to other things. There's no consistency in the approach to education, and that's a big part of why we're in this situation. Now, in terms of budget-wise in these particular layoffs, I think it's obvious we're in this situation because that's how the state government has chosen to balance the state budget. Unfortunately, we're in a position now where the state funds we rely on are being cut, and raising local taxes on citizens isn't an option at all. I'm a citizen of Beaver Creek, and we looked at a big school levy there recently that was defeated simply because residents said, I can't afford that. And it's obvious that looking at all the foreclosures and the economic conditions and the gas prices and so forth and so on, residents can't afford tax increases. So that's put school districts and really other public entities at this point between a rock and a hard place. And as I said to somebody yesterday, I hope the Dayton community and the parents we serve are ready for the kind of cuts that we're having now. There is going to be drastic effect from the school district cuts on education. there's going to be drastic effects from the cuts the city of Dayton is entertaining in services provided to
How do you think it's going to
citizens.
affect discipline in the schools, the ability to maintain control in buildings? I mean, obviously, as an educator, that's one, especially, 12 and below, that's a big issue, because they're kids.
Right.
They're
Absolutely.
growing and learning all these things. They don't have control of themselves a lot of times.
Right.
That's part of the process they're going through.
Right.
This constant cutting back, how is it going to affect the ability, to maintain just basic order sometimes in schools, in the hallways,
Right.
and, that kind of thing, to make sure everyone's safe?
We believe definitely that law and order is the primary provider of a classroom environment that's conducive to learning. If kids are there and they're focused on the education and what they need to be there for, and they understand that there are certain expectations of them, and that those expectations will be enforced, then teachers and other support personnel can do their jobs and teach, and kids can do what they need to do and learn. Cutbacks like this, all cutbacks, whether it's in teaching staff, administrative staff, all of it has an impact certainly on discipline. And we've come a ways in this district over the past few years in terms of establishing some guidelines and establishing some expectations. And we're at a point now where we realize it's just going to be up to the people who are left to carry those expectations on. And that's again what I go back to when I say we know and are committed to going ahead and doing the best we can under this situation. But it's not going to be what it should be.
Do you see, with the money that's continued, at least a lot of people need to, I guess, do you see the need for local people to connect this issue to national budget issues, wherein I'm not sure if you're familiar with the National Priorities Project. They do everything out in really good bar graphs, and it shows we're spending this much on military and this much on education.
Absolutely.
And what do you think educators and the education, I guess, bureaucracy, if you will, do they need to get involved politically in saying, we have we have a bigger military budget than the rest of the world's military budget combined,
Right.
and then some, and the ability to blow the planet up 17,000 times, and yet we have a problem employing teachers?
Yeah, and we don't have the resources we need to run a state-of-the-art educational system. Absolutely, that's an issue, and every citizen in the United States should be looking at how the federal government is spending its money. In addition, of course, that filters down to the state level, and there is state control over different issues. As you travel around the country, you got to pay attention to both. And I think at this time, perhaps more than any other since the 60s and 70s, it's going to be absolutely crucial that the citizenry pay very close attention to who it is that they're electing to office, both locally at the state level and at the federal level. I don't think anybody can afford to look even as simply as Democrat, Republican, Independent anymore. There are so many issues out there that need attention, and education is one of them. We realize that there are other pieces to the pie, and there's only so much pie. But particularly as educators, we believe that education should be the priority. There are things later on in life that are affected society-wise when the educational system isn't what it should be.
Sure, we can see it all over in crime statistics.
Absolutely.
And, if you can't read or you don't come across as a capable, competent individual because of the circumstances you've either been in or the lack of educational opportunities you have,
Right.
it's going to be real tough.
Absolutely.
People look at how you write, how you spell, how you speak. You may not think they do, but They're doing it every single second of the day.
Absolutely. My grandmother was a teacher. My parents were teachers. They're still in education. That's what got me into education. I believe education is the way, and public education is the way. It's a benefit. I'm not going to say it's free because it's not, but it's a benefit we have as Americans that needs to be put more in the forefront.
How is the DEA going to respond to these cuts? Do you have any leeway in working with the board, or is it, these are the people who are gone? How are you going to try to minimize the effect?
At this point, the board's been very responsible with working with DEA leadership, myself, and passing along information all the way along. As of today at 10 minutes after 10, there is not a list of names or particular positions that are going to be eliminated. We just know in general this many, 101 classroom teachers in Dayton are going to be laid off. 8 school nurses in Dayton are going to be laid off. That's where we are in the process, and as soon as possible, Human Resources and I are working together right now to come up with that list of specific names and notify those people as soon as possible. That's the only way to treat this. People need to know what their circumstances are as soon as possible so that they can make plans.
Sure. Do you see this, a comment I hear online a lot regarding the Kasich controversy, Senate Bill 5, the Wisconsin thing, is that, are you familiar with the Mike Judge movie, Idiocracy?
No.
Idiocracy is a documentary. The guy, same guy did Beavis and Butthead,
Okay.
King of the Hill, done a lot of
Okay.
animated stuff, and it's probably one of his most controversial movies. It's all about America going towards a future where everyone is monosyllabic, drinks the same corporate drink, goes to see all the same. The biggest movie in the theater is Ow My Balls. It's about a guy getting kicked in the balls repeatedly.
Okay.
And I see the movie was funny, but it had like this dark, ironic side that, like, if we all go towards this non-thinking, kind of corporatized future where everyone gets a double cheeseburger and is told to shut up every day and keep moving, it's like, it seems like we're in like an epic battle between people who will do, or go with the flow, and folks will say, hold on, this is,
Right.
it's almost like we're at a tipping point. We're either going to just completely flush down the toilet, or some sort of renaissance. I don't know, maybe that might take who knows. What would you be encouraging beyond, we've heard a lot in the media about Senate Bill 5, there's a petition drive going on, but what would you encourage your members and citizens of the community to do to help boost just the respect for education? When you go into the old educational buildings around the city, you can tell that these were sacred institutions. They built them with that in mind, the craftsmanship and all the old stuff. What can we do as teachers, citizens, to bring back a sacred reverence for education, and have the idea of arguing over the funding of it to be something that may someday people look at each other like, what kind of crazy people would argue over that?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We're at a point right now where a large group of Ohioans, anyway, and I think in some other states, you mentioned Wisconsin, have taken notice and decided, wait a minute, just as you said, hold on. We're not going to keep marching down this road like you're telling us to, just because you're telling us it's the right thing to do. We know better. And as classroom educators, we're in the classroom teaching the kids. We know what works, what doesn't work. And I think what this whole process is going to take to turn around is the recognition that teachers are valuable. Number one, in terms of decision making at the district level. And number two,